Problems and those large complex issues are inevitable on any project. And today we're going to talk through how to approach problem solving and the analysis that leads to those resolutions and mitigations. Let's start by talking about the high-level components of problem solving. It starts with the identification of the problem and understanding what it is and the impact to the project. Next, you need to investigate. Synthesize all your findings and determine the conclusions from what you found. Once that is understood, you can derive options and potentially make recommendations on what to do. From there, you drive towards a decision from leadership and mobilize the teams to get the job done. Now, there's a lot to be said about all these areas, especially what happens after a decision is made. And we're going to work through that in more detail in the Accelerator program. And today we're going to focus on the analysis. This is our general approach. It starts by setting the landscape. A good place to start is laying out what you know on the people, process, and technology related to the problem. Focus on the people with the most knowledge, closest to the issue, and review the RACI matrix to understand the key players in this area. Determine the associated processes, and finally outline the systems integrations, and once you go a level deeper, pinpoint the configurations and code if that's applicable. Next, with the information that you have, start thinking through possible factors and root causes. In my experience, on the people side, a lot of problems are rooted in communication breakdowns, skills gaps, or constraints, and sometimes attitude. People just don't want to get on the bus. In terms of process, people may not understand it, they didn't follow it, or the actual process is maybe broken and doesn't work. Moving to technology, these are usually issues in the requirements, system limitations, or actual flaws and defects in the application. Once you have a couple theories of what the root causes could be, you can start the investigation and start narrowing them down and validating them. Dig into the problem with some qualitative analysis. Conduct interviews with the key people you've identified and document their observations and perspectives. From there, try to find ways to either recreate the problem if it's technology, or walk through how the problem occurred step by step and deconstruct what happened along the way. On the quantitative side, it's always best to start with the project metrics you can use to highlight the problem. If that doesn't really fit, think through what you can do to count, measure, or quantify the problem in any way. Leaders like numbers a lot more than anecdotal information, so do your best to figure out how to tell the story and explain the problem with numbers. From there, synthesize all the information you've gathered and consolidate your findings. These are the facts and need to include the source of information, how it was collected, and a short description of the factual results, conditions, behaviors, essentially what your key findings are. Finally, we have the conclusions. This brings everything together and describes the problems and opportunities that will become the foundation for creating options for solving the problem. We'll actually walk through some real examples in our Accelerator program, but what I want to finish this video with is actually some guiding principles while you're conducting your analysis. The first is to stick to the facts. Take the emotions out and avoid any type of finger pointing. Funnel everything through a lens of logic and evidence-based statements. Next is to be transparent and as communicative as possible. Keep stakeholders in the loop and make sure that you don't surprise anyone along the way. The last thing that you want to do is have someone think that you're accusing them when they had no idea that you were even looking into their area. That's a great way to derail the entire process and leads to my final point. Manage the politics. The goal is to solve the problem, but you have to do it in a way that's mindful of how teams are portrayed. Keep tabs on how people are feeling about your findings and how confident they are on your conclusions. Finally, take the time to have the prep conversations to review and get input from the teams involved. For meetings with leadership, when explaining your findings and conclusions, you may need to simply set the high-level context and then defer to the teams that are responsible to provide the details. So there you go, that's me cramming a lot of information into 3 slides and trying to fit it under 5 minutes. We're going to be diving into this a lot more in our Accelerator program, so I invite you to join us there, and if not, I will see you again next week.